We would like to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. The City of Calgary is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert McCorkell, and I'm the Interim Dean for the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine. Thank you for joining us today. It is my great pleasure to introduce the inaugural Director of the Simpson Centre for Agriculture and Food Innovation and Public Health, Dr. Guillaume Lhermie. Dr. Lhermie came to Calgary from the University of Toulouse in France, where he was an associate professor in animal health and veterinary public economics. He also held an adjunct assistant professor position at Cornell University for the past 2 years. Dr. Lhermie is a veterinarian and also has a master's in economics and a PhD in pharmacoepidemiology and innovation. He will hold an academic appointment in the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine. Veterinary medicine plays an important role in society with its connection to animal welfare, food security and safety, and diseases that affect the health of both animals and people. We are excited about the unique skill set that Dr. Lhermie brings to the University of Calgary. Dr. Lhermie's research interests are in planetary health and infectious disease challenges, specifically the interface between animal agriculture and human health. His research focuses on the economics of antimicrobial use and resistance at the farm, supply chain, and global levels. Recently, his research has focused on sustainability issues. He is developing models to analyze the impact of antimicrobial use on socio-ecological systems and evaluating the impact of policies. Dr. Lhermie will be a significant voice shaping public policy in the agriculture sector, and we're delighted to welcome him to the university. And now, please join me in welcoming Dr. P.G. Forrest, Professor, Director of the School of Public Policy, and the James S. and Barbara A. Palmer Chair in Public Policy to say a few words.
Well, thank you, Robert. Very, very nice introduction. I must say I'm now tempted to tell you the story of how we did find and recruit Guillaume in the middle of a pandemic. I tell you the story because, first of all, it was the result of a great collaboration between the veterinary medicine and the School of Public Policy, and it came with the support of many generous and capable people at the University of Calgary. We were also helped by a fantastic team of professionals who canvassed the entire world to fill this position. We ended with top candidates from 5 different continents. What we love immediately in Guillaume is very original and unique background, as you underlined. The School of Public Policy was established to bridge the 3 worlds of the public sector, the private sector, and the academy. And Guillaume had experience and successes, not only experience, but successes in those 3 distinct worlds. The other factor, of course, is that his plans for the center, when we did the interviews, were so well aligned with the vision of John Simpson. And as you may all know, John Simpson has been the force and the inspiration behind this new research and outreach partnership between the University of Calgary and many, many stakeholders interested in good evidence-based policies in agriculture and agribusiness. And in fact, without John's trusting friendship and support, without his capacity to open doors and connect people like him that are passionate about the public good, I am not sure we would have accomplished what we did accomplish in less than a year, including, of course, attracting Guillaume and his lovely family to Calgary. You might be already familiar with our Simpson Centre webinars, with our Simpson Centre policy papers. More are to come soon. If you're not, well, please go on the website of the School of Public Policy, find the webpage of the Simpson Centre, and I think you will see it for yourself. You know, the Simpson Centre with its policy focus, its public education mandate, the very wide scope of activities that covers everything in agriculture, from the fields and the farm, from your lunch or dinner table. This is something Canada needed urgently. You know, I keep repeating, since we have started this endeavor, this center, that agriculture is not our past. Agriculture is our future. It will have a growing part in our economy, a growing part in our culture, in our environment, in our health, and of course, I think in the end, in our identity as Canadians. Well, thank you for being here, and let me now welcome Lurie Williamson, who is the CEO of the very well-named Agriculture for Life, who will lead the conversation today with Dr. Guillaume Lhermie. Thank you. Lurie?
Thank you very much. I'm honored and excited to be here. Of course, I'm in very good company with all the doctors, so I will, I'll fit right in. My brother was a doctor of biochemistry, so I will give you my one joke about how fun guys I know that you guys are. So that's my fun joke for the day. But as Dr. Forrest had said, my name is Lurie Williamson. I am the CEO of Agriculture for Life. Agriculture for Life is an Alberta-based charity dedicated to agriculture education. So I couldn't be more excited today. It's my honor to be talking about agriculture and education, and to welcome all of you here today, and to introduce Dr. Guillaume. And I will likely stumble on that name. My Alberta accent will probably take some of the French pronunciation out of it, so please forgive me. However, on behalf of myself and all of those attending virtually today, I do want to welcome you to Calgary, to Alberta, to Canada, and to our agriculture community. So welcome.
Thank you very much for your kind words, and thank you also for PG and Robert for this very, very warm and nice introduction. You basically told everything about myself, almost everything. So we can now talk a little bit about, I think, about the center, because this is what we will discuss today. I think this is for me really a real honor and a pleasure to be involved in this ambitious project. Actually, the center is born thanks to the vision of John Simpson and his support, of course, and the joint work of the School of Public Policy and the College of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Calgary. And I definitely feel from the very beginning I'm here a huge enthusiasm from all the community.
Well, and I think you will. The agriculture community is so supportive. They're fabulous people. And as you start to go, and when COVID restrictions open up and let us go out, you'll get to mingle and meet with a lot of passionate people, and you'll be one of them, and we'll be seeing you on the circuit, so to speak. So before we jump in, and you're not going to get away from it that easy about your background, can you tell us a little bit about your accomplishments? Reading your bio, I can't pronounce half of the awards and accolades that you have behind your name. So tell us a little bit about your history. So you were a young lad in school, and you fell in love with science and have been in academics forever. Just give us a little overview of who you are.
Yeah, actually, so it has been a little bit of back and forth between veterinary practice, industry, and academia. So I try to mix that in my past, just because I like to expand the frontiers of possibilities. I'm really curious by nature, so I don't like to be too narrow in one field. So that's why I touch to economics, policy science, of course, my first love with veterinary medicine. But actually, veterinary medicine is related to many public issues, and Rob pointed that quite clearly: food safety, food security. So I'm definitely more livestock doctor than a companion animal doctor. So that's why everything rings a bell for me.
That's fabulous. Well, you're going to bring all of that knowledge, and we're honored to have you in our city at our school and leading us down this path of the School of Public Policy. So I mentioned to you that there's been quite a few webinars since the start of January, and there was quite a few today actually talking about the future of Canadian agriculture and agribusiness. So we'll dive and we'll dig right in. So what are some of the challenges that you see sort of with us right now within the agriculture sector?
Well, I think that the first challenge consists of feeding a growing human population, and at the same time, there is an additional global increase in the protein consumption, actually. And so this is not a Canadian challenge per se, but of course, this has repercussions on international markets. And I would say that second, and closely linked to feeding the world, then there comes this planetary health challenge. And agriculture, as every other human activities, is using natural resources. And the more you need to produce consumption goods, because the population is expanding, then the more you will use resources. And the challenge of agriculture consists of, I would say, being sober, increasing the yields while minimizing the impacts on the environment.
Well, absolutely. And you raised some good points there. So it's going to be very challenging. Sustainability and climate are 100% going to drive our industry along with consumer demand.
Yeah, that's correct. And in our ag business, we need to consider this challenge as a top priority. So first, because this has the potential to shift consumers' behaviors. And in Western countries, some have already changed their dietary regimes because of environmental concerns or moral values. And of course, these changes in planetary health also impact the supply side. Climate change has made it difficult actually to harvest some products. It has also favored some disease emergence, and at the same time, it has also given fantastic opportunities in some territories where people thought that it was good to shift their production in accordance to what we can call the new normal.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's interesting. We talk a lot about consumer preferences. And one thing I find fascinating is, of course, agriculture, it takes some time to adjust and shift to consumers, their trends or the desires. And of course, we've got customers as Canadian agriculture all across the world. We don't just service our Canadian customers, we service international markets. So there's that balance there. I recently had a visit with a VP at Sobeys, and I was asking him about consumer trends and what's sort of happening at the grocery store level. And as you'd said, the demand for plant-based products is probably their number one category right now. So it's not a surprise you've mentioned it. And so we know that demand for those plant-based products will continue to grow. An increase in traceability and the desire for consumers to understand where their food comes from. So you take all of that and welcome to your new role. There's a lot of balls in the air when it comes to both, opportunities and challenges. So with that in mind, a little bit around, what would you say are some of the top issues facing Canadian agriculture around the world?
So that's fair and at the same time quite difficult questions. But I would say that one of asset that has Canada is actually a wealth of arable lands and fantastic water resources, and of course also high regulatory standards. And you know that in the Barton report published in 2016, actually Canada agriculture and the agri-food industry has shown an above average growth potential, and actually it continues to be a big growth area for us. And at the same time, agri-foods contributes to about 7% of the GDP. So it has the potential to create jobs, to help meet global food needs, and help Canada to be self-sufficient. And basically help also with our sustainability goals and greenhouse gas emissions as well. So the question that we can have is, what is really stopping us from growing this sector faster?
Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to throw that ball right back at you. What's stopping us? I got the fun job.
Well, at least what I can tell you is that what will be the focus of the Simpson Centre, of course, and the first one will be infrastructure. We can question is if this infrastructure is it ready actually to accompany a future growth? What are how are the supply chains, the railways, the port facilities, and the manufacturing facilities as well? Another point that will be of interest for us will be people and labor. How actually can we host and attract people in the ag sector in general? And so are the policies adequate for that? Another point would be the policy and climate. So how are our tax policies and regulatory systems, are they in some sense burdensome? And could they be streamlined? And maybe another point would be trade. Who are our competitors? How can we participate into the free trade agreements, for example, and how to utilize these agreements?
Interesting. So I'm going to step back and ask, when did you start your role? When did you take over the position?
So I started in December 2020.
Okay, so you got a couple months under your belt, so no problem. So you'd be able to handle all that. So that's kind of the Alberta way, right? Like we move, we're doers, right? So we're pretty excited. So there's a lot there that's happening. So what do you feel are Canada's biggest agriculture policy areas that are going to require some focus in this coming future that we're in?
Well, I would say that at least this is what we will try to focus in our research and development areas at the center. And the first one will be probably trade policy, actually. And you know that Canada exports over half its agri-food products. And in some cases, way more, for example, 70% of our wheat production. And Canada is part of a number of multilateral trade agreements, including CETA. Trade policy in Southeast Asia is also particularly important. And the Simpson Centre will study these current trade agreements and our partners to develop policy ideas that will maximize Canada's strengths as a party to these agreements. We will also probably study maximum residue limit issues as various countries steer away from international standards and are choosing their own, creating some sort of non-tariff barrier. Mm-hmm. So that would be the first, the first area. Another area would be environment and climate change. And you know that Canada is a signatory to the Paris Accord, and all industries should have awareness of what their greenhouse gas emissions are. We, as the Simpson Centre, have already worked on that, and we have a paper in the way that starts to set the groundwork for developing policy in this area. And of course, this is important because policies that enable the industry to grow can work alongside policies designed to lower emissions and encourage sustainability. But we have to be, and this is the philosophy of the Simpson Centre and the School of Public Policy, to be fact-based. Maybe if I can just chime another area, because I think so you just talked about this technology, and I think that technology will also be an issue for us. Part of Canada's agriculture industry are very high-tech, actually. But maybe Canada could do more to encourage innovation in farming and ranching, particularly with the goal of improving sustainability. And the Simpson Centre will also approach this from two aspects. The first one will be to question what is innovation, what is the innovation landscape, and what are the channels through which innovations are being developed in the sector. And the second aspect will be studying how these technologies disseminate across the sector based on our research. And we will consider potential policies that will help to speed up this cycle of innovation and dissemination.
So we've got trade policy, we've got environment, climate, we've got technology, and some innovation in there. So there's some big R&D areas that you and your team will be focused on. And I think, well, I do know there's a lot of work, and there's a lot of groups that I've had the pleasure of meeting some of them that are working in this area. So I imagine as you get situated and maybe another month in your role, you'll have an opportunity to connect with some of the other groups and do a lot of collaborating, because I think that's probably, you know, one of the most important things our industry can do is collaborate, communicate, and of course I'll say educate, because we love education. And so with the work that the Simpson Centre is doing, is there a plan around engaging stakeholders to talk about impacts and you know, sort of an agriculture and society connection?
I think that what we can see actually is, and it's not specific to Canada, but it's more what we see in many Western countries, is that there is a more and more profound gap between the general public and the agricultural sector in general. And so you know that 100 years ago, actually 1 in 3 working Canadians had a job in agriculture, so farming, ranching, or dairy cattle activity. In 2020, this is only 1.5%. And of course, the success of the ag industry is what also created the Western Canadian provinces and got them into the Confederation, and what helped give Canada this robust economy in the last 100 years. At the same time, so it moved people from the rural areas to the urban areas, and part of the Simpson Centre mandate will be to engage with various stakeholders to talk about the impact of the ag industry as made. But remember that there is a lot of positive impact that has made the agriculture, and people have to be aware of this existence of this impact.
Well, and I think that's fantastic, and Ag for Life looks forward to working with you on that, because I mean, I find it through our travels, we get to meet a lot of consumers of all ages, from kids in elementary school up to grandparents. And as you say, there is that disconnect to the farm. Many are 2 to 3 generations removed. But what I find fascinating is, though we're more and more removed, we've never seen a time where consumers have really been demanding to the needs of what they want from agriculture. So there's a gap, you know, that we need to make sure that we're very, as an industry, proactive in educating. Because as you say, those consumers are driving and influencing agriculture. But if there's a gap, then, you know, there's sort of a space where I think, well, where are they being informed? How are they being informed on those decisions? So I think that's part of the role that, you know, the Simpson Centre can play, is, you know, working together to help fill that gap, so that we do hear a lot of negative you know, chatter. Of course, social media was born for that, but we hear some negative chatter about maybe the impacts of agriculture. But it is the good news and the research that's being done that really needs to be shared. So I'm excited to follow along on your journey and see where and what comes out. And we can't have a conversation about consumers and food without bringing up COVID. Because for the first time, really, you know, people have gone to the grocery store and the shelves have been empty, and that brings an opportunity for us, because there has been an interest in where food comes from. So what do you see are the major COVID-related challenges to the industry? I mean, COVID seems to be here to stay for a little while longer. So what are those challenges?
Well, of course, we hope not too long, but it's true that the consumers actually changed, or they had to change their consumption patterns in a couple of days, impacting immensely, of course, the food retail and the food service systems. Restaurants, drinking places were closed. Food purchases to grocery stores and online grocery shopping peaked at the same time. And of course, this caused the existing infrastructures to struggle, and I don't think it's over, actually. And, there is Canada's food price report that came out very recently. They forecast an overall food price increase of 3 to 5% for 2021. And COVID-19 will continue impacting particularly the meat industry, which is vulnerable to labor shortages, logistic disruptions, food plants and distribution centers, slowdowns and shifts also in consumer demand. I would say that one of our colleagues, Rob Falconer's, has written papers, and he pointed out that labor was a necessity in Canadian agriculture in many provinces, and in the meat processing industry, which is really labor intensive, it has been really sensitive with COVID actually. And of course, this biggest COVID impact is on the labor force, and so thousands of temporary foreign workers have been working in Canada for many years, really acting as a permanent part of the agriculture industry for over these 50 years. And what this means is that anything like COVID, of course, that will disrupt the flow of workers into Canada has a detrimental effect to the industry in general.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, the temporary foreign workers, that's a really big, that's a big topic. How right from having enough workers coming in to, working environments to the production of food, and then of course COVID puts a lot more complexity around that. So I think that's one area you'd mentioned around your priorities, which I think is going to be very important as we move forward. So again, you've got a lot of work to do, and we'll expect a report maybe this time next year on how things are going, because there is a lot in it, and it seems the world's moving very quickly. COVID's feels like things are stalled, but at the same time, it's moving very quickly. So, as an industry, again, we've talked a little bit about our consumer, and our consumer wears many faces. They come from many backgrounds. They live in all over the world, and so that's challenging for any business. When you look at agriculture, and you factor that, we mentioned that earlier, we export so much, but at the same time servicing our local needs. So it's an interesting task. So let's talk a little bit about agriculture in other areas. Can you give us a little bit of a word, on European agriculture?
Sure. Well, maybe first of all, we have to keep in mind that some of the challenges of agriculture are actually very similar in Europe. Actually, we do have the same in Canada. I think that there is a general defiance towards agriculture, and in my opinion, this is mainly related to the lack of knowledge of the public regarding what is really agriculture, and maybe also linked to the fact that farmers and agribusiness were actually quite shy in communicating their work. I think that in Europe there is a very strong trend given by European policymakers to encourage agroecological principles, meaning rethinking intensification, impacting less natural resources use, and also diminishing the use of some production inputs such as pesticides. Now, this common agricultural policy is now mainly an agricultural funding policy with a budget of roughly 60 billion per year, and this is about 36% of the total EU budget actually, and it is divided in two different pillars. The first pillar consists of income support and market measures, and the second pillar refers to rural development. And there is a general trend to give more power to member states under this common agricultural policy umbrella, and to favor investments under the Pillar 2, meaning rural development, and to lower the amount of funds allocated to income support directly.
So from your experience, would you say sustainability policies and practices in France and Europe in general are ahead of Canada? And in what ways, if so?
I don't really know.
Yeah.
First, maybe let's think about what is sustainability.
Yeah,
maybe.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, sustainability is just at the intersection of three things: so society, environment, and economy. And I think that it's really often confounded with environmental friendly, which is not true actually. So I'm not really sure that one country is ahead of another, just because it really depends on what is desirable for the societies. And of course, they can have different goals. And what is achievable in one country may not be in another one for multiple reasons. What is true is that the European Union and France have they have a quite sharp ambition to reduce the environmental impacts of the ag sector. But I would say that if it comes at the cost of importing a lot of goods produced without respecting the principles it applies, then maybe we can question what is really sustainability.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Well, and I'll bring it back up to a fun level now, because I know we're getting deep in and having some good conversation. So we'll bring you back up to Canada here and just talk a little bit about agriculture. And again, you talked about the difference of what does sustainability? It means something different to me. It means something different to you. It means something different to everyone. So sort of defining that and agriculture as well. And what, agriculture, I think of agriculture as many little pieces as a puzzle. And so there's small size farms, there's larger farms, there's corporations, there's, all of these come together to make up this beautiful spread that is agriculture. And so one of the things that we've really seen is, and maybe part of COVID is an urban sort of resurgence of getting their hands dirty in, whether it be gardening, whether it be small farming, peri-urban agriculture. I kind of call it moving, like homesteading a little bit. A lot of people are enjoying moving out to the country, buying a little plot of land and having some chickens and growing a garden. And some may call that agriculture, some may call that hobby, some may call it homesteading, whatever it may be, but it's really a back to the basic approach. Do you think it's, and this is probably a difficult question, but do you think it's a bit of a fad, or do you see that as kind of a driving influence of agriculture and consumer choices?
Well, I don't know if Laura, you have your own chicken, and actually I don't.
No.
you don't either. I cannot feed them in my backyard, but I think this is, in some sense, this is important that to let the opportunity to people to reconnect with nature in general and make their own experiences and get a feeling of what is producing food. Is it complicated or not? And is it technical or not? And maybe they will understand better what are the challenges of farmers in general. But at the same time, we can say that everyone does not have the opportunity to do this kind of backyard agriculture, I would say. And we need to produce an affordable and accessible food to everyone. And this is important, of course. And so I think that instead of maybe opposing two models, I can see that more or less like as a complementary approaches.
Mm-hmm. And with the work that we do, of course, with Ag for Life, we do a lot of education, and we encourage people to plant some, something in their garden, to get their hands dirty, not necessarily to go out and buy chickens, but, to have a harvest and to experience it so they can understand that, this is, oh, why didn't that grow, or what happened there, or they walked outside and boy, it hailed and it wiped it all out. And so now imagine trying to feed the world. How would you do that, right?
Definitely.
So it is a good way, and it's fantastic. I don't have a garden, I'd be completely honest. If I plant something, the deer come and eat it, and that's the end of it, and I would starve. So I certainly thank the farmers. But it's definitely something that we're seeing moving forward, and probably influences, what people's ideas of agriculture are. And you're right, there is some positive opportunities there. Other people, we talk about organic, or we talk about conventional, or we talk about different ways of producing food, but whatever it is, they're still going to have trials and tribulations as they're growing their food. So good for them as they start to understand it. So we talked a little bit about sustainability, and again, what does that mean? But this is probably a big question, and probably continues a little bit, but can industrial sized farms, or I don't really like the word industrial, but can larger sized farms and ranching operations, can they be sustainable? And if so, like, can we measure this? What are we benchmarking on?
Well, again, I think that it comes back to the definition of what is sustainable. Sustainable also means that it has to be profitable, and so from the producer point of view, and it has to be also beneficial from the society point of view. So, which is quite interesting, of course, and important. And so, why I say that is quite interesting, because this will be one of the topics we would like to study at the Simpson Centre, of course. So, what is agricultural sustainability and at both small and large scales. And we will be looking into this concept of sustainability in grain and vegetable farming, in addition to livestock farming and trading. And there will be probably a room for improvement, like in every other sectors, but I think that agriculture has already embraced the movement.
Well, and I think that's fabulous about agriculture, because as you say, there's always improvements. We learn, we improve, we learn, we improve. And that's fantastic, because I think we'll always continue to do that as, science and tech and the innovation and the smart next generation come up. We'll always learn and improve, which is fabulous. So as we run a little bit on time, so what is your vision? So let's wrap up. I'll quit drilling you with all my questions, but what's your vision? You've been here, like I say, you've been here a couple of months, you're an Albertan now. And so what's your vision for the Simpson Centre moving forward?
So basically what we are, our mission and our vision will be built on two pillars. And the first pillar will be to conduct research, because we like to feed our second pillar, which will be outreach and dissemination to various audience, meaning policymakers, stakeholders of the ag sectors, and also the general public. And we need to provide with them fact-based information. So this is what we want to do. This is our clear mission in our different research area or research and development areas that I mentioned just before, which means, so just to recall, trade policy, environment and climate change, and also technology.
Brilliant. That's perfect. Well, I thank you for taking the time to work through some of my questions.
Thank you very much.
And to let the audience get a feel for the new guy on the team. And I'm sure your phone will be ringing with lots of people to collaborate and explore. And as I say, maybe this time next year, we'll do another event where I can quiz you again on where we are and what we've accomplished. So did you have any final wrap-up remarks that you'd like to add?
Well, maybe I would just like to thank everyone and thank you to the public that unfortunately we cannot see, but for joining us for this conversation about the future of the Canadian agribusiness. And I think that if you would like to continue this discussion about the ag sector after today, you may be interested in New Calgary and next Idea Exchange that will be held on February 24th. And I will join a panel of experts from the Department of Mechanical and Manufacturing Engineering, the One Health Consortium, and CDL Rockies. And I really hope you will join us to delve deeper into the future of the agri-food and the agri-tech sector.
Fabulous. Thank you. So I think Dr. Forrest is going to jump back on the line with us. And with that, we will mute and hand it over.
Thank you so much, Alison, and thank you, Guillaume, as well, for a fascinating conversation. It was very enlightening. I learned a lot during that exchange, and thank you so much. I have a few other thank you to make now. First of all, to Robert and to the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine for their collaboration, both in, as I mentioned at the start, recruiting Guillaume, but as well as organizing this event. I'm very grateful as well to the teams at the School of Public Policy and at the Office of the Vice President Advancement. They have provided the technical support, the logistics for this, and I think you all realize now, after nearly a year on Zoom, how much work it represents to actually put this together. Thank you all for coming today. We're very grateful to see you. Guillaume mentioned this very fascinating event that is put together by the University of Calgary next week in this Ideas series about the future of agriculture, very important. And the Simpson Centre will continue to host webinars that are more focused. We have one, I think, planned for February 3rd at 11 Mountain Time, and I wish I will all see you there. Go on the website of the School of Public Policy. You will find a dedicated page for the center. You will be able to find our papers. You will be able to find recording of our previous webinars. Again, this is just the beginning of a great adventure. Thank you to you all. Thank you to John Simpson for his support, and see you next week.